Give me a second. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Dallas. I am a senior business finance major here at Texas Southern University. And today we are presenting a comprehensive financial analysis report project. And I'm going to let my two fellow group members introduce themselves as well.
Good afternoon, my name is Zachary Mason, also a senior finance major.
My name is Aaliyah Duncan, also a senior finance major.
So today we'll be, like I said earlier, doing an extensive financial analysis report on Kroger and Costco. So just kind of taking an introspective look at two dynamic companies and just covering some key topics, just kind of using the financial principles accrued through our classroom. And so just say thank you to our professor. So today, going straight into the abstract, we know that these companies have maintained consistently for their years of existence just a magnitude of success, and we just know that Kroger is a supermarket chain that centralizes on effective manufacturing and food processing. Actually, in 2017, they had a 6.35% sales growth, and so now we see them today as a national powerhouse. And so, like I said earlier, utilizing financial principles, some key findings in this project that we discovered were close profit margins between the two companies, sustainability differences with operating profit margin, and just overall performance differences. And so just kind of highlighting exactly where both companies, well, we evaluated both companies' ratios. We used kind of some financial and accounting methods to give us the financial data we needed to take a deeper dive into both of these companies. And so company introduction on Kroger. And so Kroger is the company that we centralized our focus on for this project. And so it was founded in 1883 by Bernard H. Kroger. And so, in this time period, it was, I would say, kind of a time where it was still a lot of small businesses. And so he actually took his savings and made an investment into this company. So exactly $372 to get to what we have now. So it started out in 1885 with 4 stores. And so he had a clear understanding since the beginning that he wanted to expand operations through shrewd buying, and ended up by 1902 having 40 stores. And so today we see different types of meat markets in Kroger stores, and this comes from them just kind of having partnerships with other meat markets. And so Mr. Kroger, by him doing this was kind of one of the most original supermarkets of its time, and so now we see it as a national powerhouse. So just walking down, after the World War I, this is kind of when we really saw the company expand, and so we saw it expand financially by them actually continuing to buy other small businesses and kind of invest in more things at high demand to really include their supplier base. And so we saw them have over 5,000 stores by 1929. And so in this time, this was a big social and political revolution, but this definitely, by them just kind of leveraging their external partnerships and just leveraging just their internal merchandise, they were able to continue to expand, even through anti-chain laws, which was real big in this time period as well. And so by 1935, it was operating with 50 supermarkets. And so Kroger continued to expand. And so by 1952, it actually had $1 billion in sales. And so this was actually a time where a lot of supermarkets were on the rise. And I think that one of the main reasons was it valued its stakeholders and it instituted incentives that really promoted an engaging customer service base, such as discounts, just really incentives that brought the community together, things of that nature. And so it was really unique in that time period. And so we see in the 60s, this kind of just kind of moving forward, it became like a superstore age, and by this time they had reached $2 billion in sales. And so during the 70s, they were actually met with some strenuous challenges. And so this was a time where there was a lot of illegal business practices that gave companies profit. And so they did face a series of kind of legal endeavors, but they were never really found like guilty of in any practices like severely. And so they just continue to practice the art of acquisition and just continue to experience more expansion. And so now we see that Kroger is considered one of the largest supermarkets. And so today they have over 3,000 locations, and they really made an indelible mark on their customers. And we see they have over 800 convenience stores, really focused on dairy products, bakery goods, deli items, and other type of grocery products. And so they're able to stay relevant just because of the multifaceted approach of them having different types of business operations. And also, I think a key fact is they're one of the top gas stations, pharmacies, and jewelry stores in the country. And so we just really chose this company because of its historical mark and just kind of its current relevance on today's society and in the business world. So moving forward, the competitor for Kroger is actually Costco. And so Costco, they have a different focus. And so Costco is more of a newer company, founded in 1976. They really focus on membership. And so they have a membership fee, and it's kind of a club required to be a customer there. And so I kind of have listed here some of the membership fees. So for a standard fee for Costco is $45 per year. And then they have an annual fee, which is also $45. And then for the executive fee, it's actually $100. And so they really focus on trying to incentivize their customers that have membership clubs and really try to add new items that are most relevant. And so I think that one of the biggest differences between Kroger and Costco is not the type of items they have, but the amount. And so, for example, a Costco wholesale store might have 4,000 total items in the store, and Kroger might have 100,000. The reason why Costco has so little is because, first of all, they have a membership-focused base, and they're really trying to just kind of make more money doing less. And so they've done that through the membership base. And so you can kind of scroll down. And so like I said earlier, it started out with the membership focus, and so it is a warehouse, but really just almost like a membership operation focus. And so we see in 1999 they had to change their name to Costco Wholesale Corporation. And so this is kind of when we would see kind of a new strategic effort from Costco in its sales and marketing concepts. And so it was an analysis conducted in 1984 in which they wanted to see when customers were coming in, like how much were they spending per their average visit. And so this kind of helped them to have returning customers. It kind of helped them to understand, it really intensified their demand and their sales, to kind of say, hey, like, these are customers. And so it definitely was, on the financial side, something that they saw more profit and kind of, I would say, that's kind of what helped them, as we see right here, and my last sentence is they had to expand into new markets. That really came from the analysis they had. Okay, what are customers buying? What are the rates? How many times they're coming in the store per week? And so that helped them to understand their customers and actually expand. Let's see. So today, Costco has continued to add departments, as I kind of stated several times, and excuse me. But they still have had different financial struggles. But today they really focus on the e-commerce side and just really providing a strong, diversified financial portfolio. And so on average, today they're opening over 30 new warehouses per year. And so I think one of the biggest differences between Kroger and Costco is, one, Kroger is really focused on, they definitely both focus on customers. The biggest difference is, one is really a membership warehouse focus, and one is kind of your supermarket focus. And so both of them are definitely supermarket grocery chain giants that have found success And thank you.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Like I said from the beginning, my name is Zachary Mason, and I will be talking about our financial analysis that we did over both the companies. With this financial analysis, we can see, based on the numbers, of course, which company is better as far as with inventory, output, liquidity, excuse me, how fast they can flip their product into cash, things like that. So to start off, we did a quick ratio, a quick overview. A liquidity ratio is more easily reported with a complete of current assets with current liabilities. As you can see, I'm not going to go too much in depth, but the formulas right here that we learned is quick ratio equals current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities, or another formula you can use is cash and equivalents plus marketable securities plus accounts receivable divided by current liabilities. So we chose over a 5-year period, as you can see right here, and we did 2014 to 2018. And just a little quick overview at the end just to see who did better. Costco, the company itself is fully equipped with sufficient assets that can be instantly liquidated, to pay off its current liabilities better than Kroger. So like I was saying from the beginning, that Costco, when it comes to quick ratios, is able to get their money from their product faster than Kroger. And that could be for multiple of reasons. So going down to current ratio, liquidity and capability that measures the limit of an association to pay its responsibilities with its present assets, measuring the ratio of cash and execution. And the formula for that is current ratio equals current assets divided by current liabilities. And then a quick summary over the 5-year period, of course. Again, Costco shows that it had a number of 1.22% in 2014, while it shifts toward the 1.02% in 2018, as opposed to Kroger, which only had the 0.82% in 2014, and it kind of shifted or decreased down to 0.78% in 2018, which again shows that Costco is more better when it comes to the current ratio. So that's two for Costco in regards to quick ratio and current ratio, and 0 for Kroger. So far, Costco is doing better. So when we transition into debt ratio, the formula for that is total debt divided by total asset, and we keep scrolling down. In this case, the debt ratio for Kroger is best, as it starts at 2.10 and it spiked up to 2.26 in 2014. With information they had to pay more amount in the form of debit, which is not a good sign. So unfortunately, we weren't able to compare these two because Costco did not display their information for debt ratio. So just by default, I think Kroger gets this one. Inventory turnover ratio. So that is the relationship that shows how often an association inventory is sold in exchange for a time span. So the duration in days and days that it takes to occur an inventory accessible can be circled by condition to discover inventory turnover. The formula for that is inventory divided by cost of sales divided by 365. That's gonna be days in a year. Thank you. And then the inventory turnover of Costco was good, as it showed a value of 12.04 in 2014, in which it decreased to 11.8 in 2018. While on the other hand, Kroger, it showed 14.47 in 2014, while it increased to 14.61 in 2018. So in this case, inventory turnover, you want it to be low. And Kroger, of course, got that. So right now, it's tied to 2 when comparing ratios. Going down to asset turnover ratio, it measures the productivity assets of a business generating income. It qualifies the dollar measure of the revenue generated by $1 of the organization's assets. A quick formula for that is asset turnover equals sales or total revenue divided by assets. Kroger's asset in 2014 was 3.66% in 2014 and decreased to 3.27 in 2018, which is not a good sign because when compared to Costco, it shows that their value in 2014 was 3.57%, while declining or increasing, to 3.68% in 2018. So that's basically saying that assets in the position to get back some value to them whereas opposed to Kroger, they're not getting that much back from their assets. Scrolling down to times interest earned. Time interest earned ratio is the ability to cover interest payable on the debt duty are showed up conveyed as income before interest and evaluation divided by interest cost. The ratio is portrayed as a number rather than a rate. It's imperative to figure out the times interest earned data are found easily on the income of an association. So both companies didn't display that, so I wasn't able to compare those two on there based on that. And then also profit margin. So the profit margin, the quick summary on that is that it's a bit of a clarification behind the profit class. So more in depth, it basically is the income or sales disconnected by the ratio of the net profit discovered as the net income. So the ratio is also it checks whether the association can manage its costs. So comparing Costco and Kroger with that, Kroger at the 5-year span was at a constant 2% through 2014 and 2018, and then Costco also, so 2% from 2014 to 2018, so they're kind of at a stalemate. So they both kind of were able to do that with their assets. Operating profit margin, operating profit margin, exercises is the ratio of association delayed consequences of direct costs and diminishment of overheads and charges and other indirect expenses for instance, like liberal interest. The formula for that is operating income divided by net sales. The numbers for that, when compared to the two companies, I had it in the thousands. They didn't really have it in percents. So for Kroger, it showed a result of 27,250 in 2014, and it dramatically increased to 2,085,000 in 2018. While on the other hand, the profit margin for Costco had like a negative response where it went from 3%. It started with 3% in 2014, and then declined by a whole percent going throughout that 5-year span to 2% in 2018. So Costco definitely took that one. So net profit margin is net profit margin is every single operating cost, interest remaining after evaluation rate, and supported stock dividend. So all that deducted from the gross income of an association. The equation for that, net margin equals net profit divided by revenue. The numbers displayed for that, or the calculations for that. Costco's is 1.83 in 2014, and then shifted up to 2.21 in 2018. While Kroger is not performing as good, where it showed a 0.02 in 2014, and it increased to 2.21. So definitely Costco got that, just because of where Kroger was and how it grew did not show, which shows kind of like an underlying problem that they had to get to that 2.1, where kind of Costco kind of stayed up above that 1, that 1.0, and went up to that 2.21. Return on total asset, goodness. The formula for that is EBIT divided by net assets. So a quick overview of what return on asset is. It's the ratio of yearly net income to the ordinary total assets of an association, and the minus of money related to that year, the net profit of the matter of saving measures, and the use of assets to produce. The owner always wants a good return from his company, of course. So this being fulfilled by the Costco management, they show some good return on assets compared to Kroger. So you can see, and you'll see on my Excel spreadsheet, that Costco had a 6.52% in 2014 return, and it also increased, so they're doing better throughout the 5-year span. They went from 6.52 to 8.14%, which obviously show that they're performing well, where opposed to Kroger, they had some non-marketable points, which showed that their return on asset was 5.65% in 2014, and decreases to 5.09 in 2018. So again, Costco is doing really well when doing these comparisons, and you can see. And then return on common equity measures the profitability that computes what number of dollars a profit organization produces every dollar of investors' equity. So return on common equity formula follows right here: dividend per share divided by price per share. Return on equity with Costco was 17.84% in 2014, and then rose all the way up to 26.66% in 2018, while Kroger had 31.76% in 2014, and then decreased once again to 27.53% in 2018. So I guess when I observed Kroger did kind of good, but not as better as Costco. So and I kind of saw that trend as we go through these ratios. You can kind of see these trends where I feel like Costco doing way better, not just because it's newer, but because of the way they run things. Where as far as Kroger is really older than Costco, so the things they might be doing could be preventing them from excelling in the market. Cost of debt. That's you.
Yeah.
And over to Leah.
All right, on to me, Leah Duncan here. We're gonna move towards cost of debt, and basically cost of debt measures the interest a company pays on its current debt. Cost of debt can be calculated before or after tax, and within the cost of debt, there is two parts. You have the after-tax cost of debt, which we'll get to. And for the formula for cost of debt, it is using last year's fiscal year and divided by the latest 2-year average debt to get the cost of debt. As of January 2018, Kroger's interest expense was $601 million, and the total book value of debt was $14,833 million. And of course, by putting that into the formula, you get their cost of debt to be 4.05% for Kroger. And for Costco, as of August 2018, their interest expense was $159 million, and the book value of debt was $6,530 million. And of course, by applying that formula, you get 2.43%. For their cost of debt, Kroger tends to have a higher cost of debt percentage because of their higher accumulation of debt compared to cost. Kroger also shows more risk when investing in their capital opposed to cost in the year of 2018 due to their higher amount of debt. Excuse me. You go. Yeah. Okay. And then to the second part of the cost of debt, you now have the after-tax cost of debt. The formula for that will be the after-tax cost of debt equals cost of debt multiplied by 1 minus tax rate. And for Kroger, their cost of debt, as stated earlier, was 4.5%. And as of March 2018, their tax rate was 22% compared to a 33% tax rate that stood since 2016. So after calculating that, their after-tax cost of debt equals to 3.2%. And for Costco, cost of debt, as stated, is 2.43%. And as of September 2018, their tax rate was 28.40% compared to a 33.48% tax rate that stood last year of 2017. So after calculating that, of course, you get their after-tax cost rate to be 1.73%. Kroger shows an increase in their after-tax cost of debt compared to 2016 because of the decrease in their tax rates. This affects their cost of capital by raising it in a certain percentage compared to previous years. And then Costco also mirrors the same thing, just with different numbers, but shows the same scenario. And then moving on to cost of preferred stock. So basically, cost of preferred stock, it represents the class of ownership in a business and has a higher title on assets and earnings than common stock. There it is. Preferred shares generally have a dividend that must be paid out before dividends to common shareholders. Each company has showed where they recorded 0 dividend preferred stock, thus this section does not apply to them. So there will be no calculations for the cost of preferred stock because each company did not show any. And then on to the cost of equity. So the cost of equity is the return a company requires to decide if an investment meets capital return requirements. Many companies tend to use the cost of equity as a capital budgeting guidance to require a rate of return. And a company's cost of equity represents the amount of payment in the market's demands in exchange for owning the asset and taking on the risk of the ownership. So there are 2 formulas usually used to calculate cost of equity. you have the dividend growth model, and then you have the capital asset pricing model, also CAPM, that's how some people prefer it as. And then for these two companies, the CAPM formula will be used to determine each cost of equity, because each company did not show a record of a dividend preferred stock. So as the formula for cost of equity is risk-free rate of return plus beta of asset multiplied by expected return of the market minus risk-free rate of return. So after putting in the information for Kroger and for Costco, Kroger's cost of equity came out to be 9.45%, and Costco equals out to be 12.73%. Compared to their cost of debt, cost of equity will always be higher due to the higher risk and the fact that it does not have to be repaid. So that's one thing cost of equity has over their cost of debt. Kroger also shows that it has better equity than Costco because of the lower equity rate, because of the lower equity rate, the lower financial leverage, and the less debt used to finance its assets. So that is it with the cost of equity, and moving on to the weighted average cost of capital, which is also known as WACC. The weighted average cost of capital is the average rate of return a company expects to compensate all its different investors. The weights are the fraction of each financing source in a company's target capital structure. There are many different ways you can calculate WACC. For this particular situation, I chose two ways, two parts when it comes to calculating the WACC. And the first part of calculating, if you can scroll down a little bit, thank you. The first part of calculating the WACC is to estimate the weight equity, and the two weights that we are trying to find is the weight of equity and then the weight of debt. So for the first one, for the weight of equity, the formula is the equity divided by equity plus debt. Equity plus debt, there we go. And then as of today, Kroger's market value of equity was, that's a big number, help me out here, say that number for me, 23,906.610 million. Yeah, really big number. And to calculate the market value of debt, we will add the current portion of long-term debt and long-term debt and capital lease obligation together. So a lot of people use that formula in order to get the debt because certain companies don't tend to put out as much information to just give you the direct number. So they tend to add those two together. And then as of today, Kroger's current portion of long-term debt was recorded as $2,906 million, and the long-term debt and capital lease obligation was recorded as $11,927 million. So their total weight of equity will equal out to be 0.6171%. And then using the same formula to do the weight of equity for cost, go down, go, yeah, went too fast, there we go. Okay, weight of cost, using the information that they gave us, their total weight equity was 0.9371. And then going on to the weight of debt, the formula for that would be debt divided by equity plus debt. So basically the same formula as the first one, we just switched around a little bit. And by replacing the first part of the equation, the equity, by replacing the first part of the equation, the weight of debt for Kroger will be 0.3829 compared to the cost weight of debt, compared to Costco's weight of debt, which is 0.0629. I apologize. Okay, going up. And then now onto the second part, which took up well, it's a lot of stuff in that. Go down. Thank you. No, go back up. There, right there. Okay, so the second part of calculating WACC, and the formula is E divided by V times RE plus D divided by V times RD times 1 minus TC, which basically E is the value of the firm's equity, D equals the market value of the firm's debt, RE equals the cost of equity, and RD equals the cost of debt, and TC equals the tax rate. So going down, as of today, Kroger's market value of equity wrong page. Okay, as of today, Kroger's WAC equals to 7.33% compared to Costco's 12.04%. The higher the WAC means the higher risk associated with a firm's operations, and then Kroger is responsible to paying 0.0733 cent for each dollar in extra funding to the investors, and Costco is responsible for paying 0.1204 cent to theirs. So, and when it comes down to WAC, Kroger shows a much better WAC than Costco does. The lower the WAC, the better. I lost my place. Where we at? Oh, we're on the conclusion. Okay, yeah, so Kroger, in this situation, Kroger shows a better overall study than Costco. Yet, even though Costco beat them multiple times, well, not beat them, but showed better results in many other areas. But on to the conclusion, it is, for these two companies, it is kind of hard to basically say which company is doing better if we were to say overall, because of the weighted average cost of capital. Since Kroger's is lower, it shows that Kroger may be doing the right things in a lot of areas that Costco isn't doing, but yet because of some of the other things like cost of debt, quick ratio, and current ratio, like Costco is doing a lot better than Kroger. So for these two companies, yeah, it's pretty hard to say which company is doing better. In my opinion, though, from the study from my portion, because of the weighted average cost of capital, I would personally say Kroger is showing that it is doing better because they have a lower WAC than Costco. I don't know if anybody else. No, okay. Yeah, that's it.